Well, for the last few months, Melissa and I have been testing out this XPremium folding e-bike from LECTRIC that came out early in the summer of 2022. Now, we really wanted to spend some time, really get to know some of this new equipment on this bike and get familiar and comfortable with it before we shared a lot of that information with you. We've had it on the bike rack, we've loaded it into the car, and we've taken it with us all the way through Canada and through Alaska and then back down through Canada. Thousands of miles of travel. I think we've really put it to a good test, you know, for traveling with this bike, because it is also LECTRIC's largest e-bike. We want to share that information with you, hopefully answer a lot of the questions you might have if you're considering this model. There's some cool stuff on this e-bike. That's why it's called the XPremium. But you know, is it really the bike for you? You know, as an RV traveler. Hopefully, we can help you answer those questions. So let's dig in and find out.
When I first got on this bike, I was actually expecting it to feel uncomfortable, kind of big and cumbersome. I was actually pleasantly surprised that I didn't really have to make too many adjustments. I think the only thing I actually adjusted was the seat. I feel like because it's a little bit longer, that my arms, like when I'm on the bike, when I put my arms out, I'm holding the handlebars, I felt like the distance was appropriate for me. The seat felt great and comfortable. It just felt like a bigger normal bike.
Immediately when I sat in this, you know, my arms are out here and I'm sitting in here. It feels very comfortable, and it actually feels like I was sitting in the bike as opposed to on top of the bike. So it just made me feel a lot more comfortable and confident and in control and a lot more stable.
My confidence level is so much higher on this bike. I think it's because it's bigger, it's more solid, the tires are bigger, but I think also based on the length of it, I just feel like I'm sitting taller, my hands are where they're supposed to be. I'm not hunched over a little bit, I'm sitting up. And the huge thing for me is that I can actually take a hand off, like scratch my nose or put my hand on my side, and I don't feel like I'm hanging on for dear life. Where on most other bikes, unless I were to get fitted for that bike, I'm hanging on with both hands and I'm not letting go. And for whatever reason, I'm nervous and kind of wiggling around. This one I was pretty excited. We were riding down a long stretch. I took my hand off, like, oh my gosh, I was actually able to take it off, and I feel solid. One of the things I really like is that this model is a step through. It being such a large bike and a little bit heavier, I know I've been in some sticky situations where I've had to stop pretty quickly, jump off, and I can get on and off super quick and easy when I jump off my seat, come down really easily, and can stop that bike.
That it's noticeably a longer bike than, say, the XP 2.0 and definitely the small XP Lite. And it comes in this black color. It also comes in white. The other main upgrades that we are aware of, that I'll point out quickly, is that it has a mid-drive motor. It also has the thicker tires, so it has 4-inch tires. We went back to a 4-inch fat tire. It's 20-inch rim, so still the small rims. It's foldable. Here's the hinge right there in the middle. It's also got 2 batteries now. So there's a battery here and there's a battery here. So that's gonna improve the range of this bike. One of the big things that people have been asking for have been hydraulic brakes. So we'll talk about that. Front shocks, just like the XP 2.0, and what we'll talk about is they're just a little bit bigger, so you get a little bit more travel there. The rest of the controls and everything are pretty much standard LECTRIC, easy to use and see controls. My battery level, which, you know, it was about just a little under half, I think, when it first arrived. And my pedal assist level, and everything's adjustable with this control here on the left hand, up and down, pedal assist all the way up to 5. And I have my different modes here on the bottom: odometer, my trip meter, my voltage reading, my current reading, which I'll talk about in a little while, and it gives you some time limits for when you started your ride, and it gives you an idea of how long you've been riding. I was actually excited to hit the road with this and try out this mid-drive motor for the first time. I've read a lot about it, but I've never actually ridden an e-bike that had a mid-drive motor. We've always had the rear hub motor kind, and I was used to that feel. One of the things that I had heard was that the mid-drive motors were better suited for experienced riders and experienced cyclists. I found it pretty easy to adapt to. Now, we normally ride a bike like a bike. We're used to pedaling, and we're used to shifting gears and finding that right gear to pedal ratio, and it was really the same experience using the bike with the mid-drive motor, but the feel was a lot different. Typically with the rear drive, you feel like you're, when you hit that speed, it really gives you that jolt of acceleration, where the feeling with this mid-drive is a lot different. It's very smooth, and it's a gradual feeling, and it's kind of hard to explain unless you've actually ridden a bike like this with this mid-drive feature. But I think Melissa had a very similar experience.
The mid-drive motor is here, which I didn't realize that's where it was. I'm not an e-bike expert, so I didn't really understand what mid-drive meant. But after riding the bike, I get it now. I get how it's super responsive with when you're actually pedaling. Never really understood the difference between the mid-drive motor and the rear drive until I rode both of them. When I went back to the 2.0, when I would go to an assist, you would just feel that level kick in, kind of a push. And it's not responding to your pedal strokes, but it's responding to, here's how much power I'm going to give you. And you pedal to match that, and you change your gears to match that. Whereas on the premium, it's responding to you, and it's responding to your pedal strokes. And when you are changing your gears, I feel like you're really kind of more in control of how that power is being utilized. Whereas in the rear drive, I think the bike is more controlling that, and you're responding to that. Having ridden both of them, my preference would be the mid-drive. I like that responsiveness to my pedal strokes. I like that I'm a little bit more in control of the power of the bike. However, there are some situations, especially if you're going up a steep hill, where I feel like the rear motor is going to push you up maybe a little bit faster and make you feel like you're getting a little bit more assist, where with the XPremium going up a steep hill, I think you're working a little bit more with the bike to get you to that level, to get you the assist to go up the hill, if that makes sense.
One other thing that I noticed pretty quickly when I was out on one of my first rides is that I was able to get up to speed a lot quicker on this bike. Has something to do with the fact that the pedaling and the gears and the motor are all very tightly coupled, so the response you get is almost immediate. So if you're kind of efficient with your shifting and pedaling and slowly increasing that speed, the motor's just going to keep up with you, and it's going to give you that feeling. Maybe it's more than a feeling, more than a feeling. It's going to create that feeling of actually accelerating faster, and I've certainly felt it, and it was noticeable. Now, the last thing I want to point out is that with the mid-drive, sorry, I'm still caught on the Boston song. The last thing I want to point out is that the mid-drive has a feature built in that is there to protect the motor, and it's not something that you really notice much, but when you go to shift, so if you're shifting gears and the motor's engaged and helping you out, the motor just for a split second will cut out while you're shifting and then re-engage. Now if you're a good shifter and you kind of do that natural pause in between pedaling and you shift, you won't even notice it. The only time that I've really noticed it is when I've been really pedaling hard, like say I'm going up a steep hill and I want to downshift because I realize it's getting hard and I'm in a too high of a gear, and even though the motor is helping me some, I can still feel it and I want to downshift. So I go to downshift and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, the motor cuts out just for a second, and it can throw you a little bit if you don't expect it. If I do have to downshift, I want to be going at a decent speed so that I can slow down just a second to shift. It's something you just kind of get used to. Hello. This bike does really well on hills. I haven't had any problem. What I tend to do though is, when I see a hill coming, is that I'll kind of set my gears early. So if I know I'm going to need to be in a lower gear, I'll plan ahead and realize that, and I'll kind of set that early so that while I'm kind of doing a lot of pedaling, moving up this hill, that I'm in the right gear and I probably don't have to downshift much.
I love the fact that this bike still has a throttle. This being a bigger bike, it's a little heavier, and with the mid-drive, having to pedal to get that assist going, if you encounter a super steep hill and need some assist getting up, you're really going to want to use this throttle. Another situation where it is really beneficial and helpful is if you stop and say you're in a higher gear and it's going to be hard to get going without a little bit of assistance with the throttle. So if you're at a dead stop, say you're at a stop sign, you got to go, oh no, I'm in the wrong gear. Give yourself a little throttle to get going, get pedaling, and you can get into the gear that you need to be in.
One feature that really gives this bike a lot more stability and just comfort overall is, moving back to the 4-inch tires. Now we still like the 3-inch tires on the XP 2.0, but having the thicker tires on this bike, especially if you air them down a little bit, on rougher terrain, really helps to give you that smooth, stable ride. I also recommend using some kind of flat tire preventative stuff. I know you can get them from Lectric now preloaded with slime. I use the flat out stuff. That's what I've been using for a while. Works pretty good. Squirt it in just like the slime, but that's the product that I use. But whatever you go with, it's nice to have something so you don't get stuck with a flat tire when you really don't want to. And we also have our front shocks here, our front suspension. And what's different about this versus the XP 2.0 is that it has twice the amount of travel here. So if we look at this compared to the XP 2.0, which is about that much travel, so we got a lot of bounce ability here. And then it's just like the other one though, it's adjustable, so you can adjust how much flex you want to put in there. So yeah, those are nice upgrades. We have our collapsible pedals, that you can fold down when you're getting ready to store the bike. And this one's getting a little rough. I need to lubricate it, but there it is. Okay, and then the other one to point out is, they have upgraded headlight, which is just a little bit nicer than the previous stock one. It also has a upgraded rear tail light here. What this also does, in addition to just turning on when you have the light on, is that when you apply the brakes, it will blink. I found that the lights on these bikes just aren't all that great personally. I really like having a really high vis blinking light all the time. I don't know if a blinking light while you're stopping is really going to tell a car that much information. I really just like to be seen all the time. So I wish that they really put a nice high-powered tail light in these bikes. It doesn't seem like it would be a big deal to add that, but I typically will add a nice light on the back of my bag here, just to have that visibility, especially when we're on open roads and you got traffic coming behind you. The hydraulic brakes on this model, of course, are very nice. You really don't have to give it much pressure. Hydraulic brakes in general are just really nice. These are Zoom branded hydraulic brakes, and they do stop on a dime when you need them to.
I love the fact that these are hydraulic brakes. I wasn't sure that I would know the difference, but I definitely could tell the difference, especially coming down a steep hill. They're just so much more responsive, but it's easy just to have your fingers right here when you're on holding onto the handlebars. I get a little nervous, and so I tend to ride with my fingers here a lot, just in case I can stop quickly if I need to. And then we have a rearview mirror. I've actually put mine down below because the way I look at it, it's easier for me to see behind me with the mirror down here.
Now you can certainly expect to get some additional range on this bike because it has 2 batteries. Most e-bikes have 1 battery. This one has 2. So we got 2 large batteries. The main one here is in the main neck here of the step through, and the second battery is back here. So both of them work together to power the bike and give you that extra range. Under perfect conditions, I believe on the electric website they say, it's capable of 100 miles or so. Those are not typical conditions, and I think they also have a breakdown of estimated range, on the bike, depending upon how you ride, and all those conditions, which you're probably already aware with an e-bike. It depends on where you ride and how you ride, how much pedal assist and throttle you use. There are just a lot of variables. So go check out the website. You can get there at rvwithTito.com/electric if you want to see that breakdown of the range tabulation for this bike. I think reasonably you should be able to get at least like 60 miles out of full charge on both of these batteries. So we just got back from about a 23 mile ride, and see here on the electric XP 2.0, we're down a couple bars, but on the XPremium we're still at full bars. So yeah, definitely got some better range going on with the dual battery setup here. If you prefer, you can just ride it with 1 battery. You can remove this back one here and just ride it with the front battery. One thing that I liked about the fact that this is the black model is that the battery is black. So if I take off this battery here, it may look like I don't have a battery at all on the bike, and that there's just a missing battery, so it's going to be non-functional. Not the case probably with the white one, because the battery is still black and the frame is white. One of the things that they improved on was the fact that you didn't have to leave the key in the battery while you're operating the bike. So you only need the key in here to actually lock and unlock the battery and remove it. Once it's in place, it's locked, you remove the key. So you don't have this key dangling while you're operating the bike, which has been a complaint. The downside of that is that there really is no way to lock the controls with the batteries installed, because as long as the batteries are in here, you can turn on the control here at any time. What was nice about having the key is that if you remove the key, and you're going into a restaurant or a store or something, then you couldn't operate the bike without the key. So that's not the case anymore. The batteries are always engaged, and you can always turn the display and the controls on. You're going to have to just make sure that you have a really good locking system with chains and cables or whatever when you're securing the bike. So I'll just throw this one back to Electric and say, if you could fix that issue of being able to lock the display somehow. I've seen other ones that have like a code, that you have to put in order to turn on the display. This one doesn't have that, but some way to lock things up while you're away from the bike would be nice, given that you don't have to have the key in anymore. I wouldn't buy this bike just for the batteries and the extended range alone. If you like, say, the XP 2.0 and that's a good bike for you, you can now get an extended range battery for that bike, which will boost up the range from the default basic battery that it typically would come with. So you can get some extended range for the 2.0, and instead of having to spend all this extra money on the XPremium. So just a thought, if you are happy with another model and just want some extended range. Well, actually, it's just the XP 2.0 right now that has the extended life or extended range battery. And I expect the battery charging to take about 4 to 6 hours, depending upon how much battery charge you need. I've never really taken it down really low. After a long ride or a few long rides, I'll charge it back up, and it may take a few hours. And I just charge one at a time. Wait till it gets full, charge the other one. It's really no different than any other battery charging. I typically will charge them in the bike. It's just a lot easier that way. They both have little battery meters on them, so you press this button here on the main battery, and it's got a little LED that'll either be red, which is battery low, green, which is kind of in the middle, which is good, and then there's a blue color of the LED, which will indicate that the battery's full. And the readout here on the secondary battery is just a little status indicator with looks like 5 different LEDs on it. So if they're all lit, then it's full. The top speed on this bike is going to be 20 miles per hour, which is the default for like a class 2 bike. Now you can switch that to the class 3 setting, which is going to bump it up to like 27, 28, whatever the max capable speed of this motor is. I've really never had it over 26, 25 is really kind of, a push to get it up there. I feel that 24, 25 miles per hour is plenty, for this bike. You don't really need to go much faster than that when you're cruising along. Unless you're going slightly downhill, you might be able to go faster. And obviously, I've had it faster. Cruising downhill on this thing at 30 is quite comfortable. But yeah, setting it to that class 3 setting is really easy. To get into programming mode, you just hit the plus and minus button at the same time, and then you'll see it goes into this program mode with all these programs. There's 21 of them. So we want to go up to program 8. Keep hitting the power button until you get there. And right now it's set to 100%, and we want it to be at 100%, but when you get it, it's going to be set to 32, which is about 32 kilometers, which is roughly 20 miles per hour. Just hit the plus or minus to get to 100, and then to save it, just press the power button again, and then to get out of the settings, hit the plus and minus again, and then we're back out, and it's saved, and then we'll power it down, and then hold the power button, bring it back on now, and now we should be set at that class 3 level, and it's going to give you as much power as the motor and the battery can provide at the time. I typically just go ahead and do that right off the bat. Whether you ride it that fast or not, it is totally up to you. Now, in all the riding that I've done on this, I found a couple of sweet spots in the settings that seem to be very comfortable places to be. If going about 12 miles an hour, say on a nice fairly level path or road, I can keep it at a pedal assist 2 or so, and it's just a very comfortable pedaling with a little bit of assist in there, at that 12, 13 mile an hour speed. Now, if you want to go a little faster, it's really not that difficult. You can just crank it up to say 4, and that'll keep you up at about 17, 18 miles per hour very comfortably. You know, just kind of find that right gear to be in at that pedal assist level. And so those two, yeah, like pedal assist 2, pedal assist 4, sweet spots that I found were just the most comfortable riding speeds for me. What I do is just toggle the display using the power button, just kind of hit it, tap it until you get to the current display. I think it says CUR. And then once you're there, it shows you how much energy is being drawn from the batteries. So, you know, while you're pedaling, you can see how much is being drawn when you're, you know, on the throttle, or you're, you know, really getting a lot of assist versus when you're pedaling in some of those sweet spots. And what you'll find is that that current level often drops down to 0. And at that point, you know that you're not pulling any power from the batteries, and you know your motor's probably not helping much at all, especially when you get up to a comfortable speed and you're maintaining it. So if you can kind of find those sweet spots, you know, then you're gonna make your battery charge last a lot longer and increase your range. Well, the most challenging part about this bike is the fact that it's just a bigger bike. You know, it's heavy. It weighs about 75 pounds with the batteries in it. But even while folded, it's such an awkward, big thing to lift and move around that most people aren't going to be able to do it comfortably. I have a tough time just moving this bike around, especially when it's in its folded position, because there's really no way to grab it.
I haven't actually tried to break this down and fold it up and put it away. Usually that's Brian's job. But I'd like to try and at least see how far I get with it. Okay, I got that part done.
All right.
Okay. Oh my goodness. I don't know.
Oh.
As far as I can get. I don't know that I could get it any higher than that. And then I'm stuck.
Yeah. So is this something you think the average person will be able to do?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
All right, this is the tub that we demonstrated with the XP 2.0. I've never tried it with the XPremium. I don't know, might be too big. We'll see. Oh boy. Oh, looks like it kind of fits, sort of. Partially. The top's still sticking out here. Oh, this is tricky. Whoa! No, it doesn't fit. Now, like I've said, we've traveled with this bike for thousands of miles, you know, up on this big trip we just went on. And, you know, we've done it fine. You know, we've kept it on our bike rack on the back of the RV with an XP 2.0 as well. It's challenging to get it on the bike rack, get it off the bike rack. It's very heavy, and, you know, if you're a solo traveler or you just can't, you know, lift up 75 pounds, like, you know, up to your chest level, it's difficult, you know, to maneuver this bike on and off of a bike rack. You know, at other times we would we'd take the bikes out and we want to drive somewhere for going on a ride or something. So being able to fold them up is nice, but it's still it's challenging to get it in and out of a car even. Well, we've been quite surprised actually in terms of how much we've enjoyed riding this bike. We were really happy with the XP 2.0 and even the XP Lite as well, but having logged a lot of miles and time on this bike and really gotten to know the features and gotten comfortable on it, we've really enjoyed it. In fact, I started riding it a lot initially. Once Melissa started riding it, for some reason, I couldn't ride it anymore. She's like, she claimed it.
I'm in love with this bike.
You know, sure, the transporting part of it has been challenging, but it's doable if you do need to move it around. It's just not practical in a lot of situations, but it's possible. Feel free to drop any new questions or anything we didn't address in the comments section. We'll get them answered for you. And also go visit Lectric's website for more information, specs, and latest prices. The best way to do that is to go to rvwithtito.com/Lectric, and that'll take you right there. Also, it'll tell Lectric that we sent you. If you want to say thanks, that's a good way to do it. But I hope you got something out of the video. I look forward to talking to you in the comments section. Yeah, if you do end up getting one of these, you let us know how it goes, and you know, just have fun out there. Enjoy riding your e-bike, and we'll talk to you in the next one.